Welcome to another episode of Choose Your Destiny with me, your host, Nev Kragulevich. Today, I have an incredibly special guest, somebody who I call a friend, who I call a doctor as well, yes, but who I call a colleague. And I'd like for you to welcome Dr. Michael to the show. Dr. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nev. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor.
Pleasure is all mine, sir. So, if you don't mind introducing yourself to the audience and telling us briefly what is it that you do?
Well, my name is Dr. Michael Posner. I have a holistic wellness clinic in Huntington, New York, Long Island. And what I do is I help people to live a healthier life, to prevent potentially fatal diseases, and to help them prevent degenerative diseases. And I do that by using chiropractic methods, nutrition, and other self healing modalities that they can do in everyday living. My major objective is to help people increase their life force energy by removing nervous interference between their brain, their spine, and all their body parts down to the very cell. And so, in essence, I do the things, I present the elements for people to have a healthier life.
That is incredibly helpful, useful, and I think when I think about what it is that you do, I find that you are somebody who can potentially help anybody, literally, to live a better life. Yes.
Yes, that's true because in my office, I utilize many modalities like chiropractic, acupuncture, massage therapy, nutrition, weight loss. I have a very advanced laser. I use extracorporeal shockwave therapy. And I also teach people how to breathe, how to fix their posture, how to quiet the noise in their minds through meditation techniques. And certainly that reduces stress for everybody. So the things that we do are relevant to all people, from children to the aged.
Yeah, I love the fact that you are not just focusing on one modality to help heal the body, but it sounds like it goes from mental, meaning um, quieting the mind and sort of coming in tune with oneself, all the way to the physical, as you have mentioned, from the posture to the way that we carry ourselves, and then, of course, aligning, it sounds like, our body to
Absolutely.
function properly.
If you take a look at medicine today, typically doctors are specialists. So they only look at one aspect of a person on a physical level. So that is certainly, in my opinion, inefficient and ineffective because you need to look at a person and see how everything relates in their life. It's all important how what they do for a living, how they think, what they do with their bodies, how they eat. You must look at people in a holistic way to truly help them to the maximum.
I love that. I really do love that because one of the reasons I have switched from, shall we say, traditional Western medicine to the traditional Eastern philosophies and what is here in the United States referred to as alternative medicine is because folks like you tend to focus on me as a human being, right? As a whole, as
Correct.
opposed to just focusing on a pain. So, what I had experienced before is I would go to a doctor and say, well, my knee hurts. And they typically give me pain medications. They say stay off of it.
Yes.
Let's say I came to you, for example. Let's play pretend that my knee hurts, and I come to you and say, Dr. Michael, my knee hurts. The chances you would likely ask me questions, yes?
Yes, and I would also take a look at your whole structure just to see how your ankle and your feet are aligned. Because, the feet are the foundation of your whole body. And usually, if you have a foundational problem, it will reflect into the knees next, then it will go into your hips, then it will go into your spine and your neck, and even sometimes cranial bones. So when I look at a person, I look at the whole structure. In addition, of course, I look at their mental attitude, their emotional states, and how they eat. Everything connects, everything is one. And you see, the integration is the most important thing to notice in people.
Right. So if I have understood correctly, it is quite possible that if I get a pain in my neck, it might stem all the way down from my feet, my ankles, and my knees. And so even though it hurts here, the problem might have started way lower than when I'm actually feeling it.
Absolutely. I think you're understanding it correctly.
That is really fantastic. Now, for some of the folks that may not be as familiar with what the chiropractor sort of does, so if you can, in a very simplified way, explain sort of when we go to a chiropractor and we see them twisting the body, and sometimes we hear things popping and stuff.
Yes.
I presume that's not bones breaking or anything like
Uh,
that, right?
right, right. A lot of people have fears that we're actually hurting their body in some way. But the truth of the matter is, what you're hearing are like gaseous releases in the joint capsules or fluids moving around. But the actuality, there is no bone rubbing against bone or no negative side effects from that. So basically, what you're hearing is a joint that's stuck being released, the easiest way to say it. And the important thing about that is, when you have fixations, things start to degenerate. Just imagine a door that wasn't oiled properly and it was out of alignment and you keep using it. It's going to wear out and degenerate quickly. So, what do you need to do? You need to align the door, oil the joints, and get things moving again. And then the other aspect to it, which many people often miss, is the neurological aspect, which is really the crux of chiropractic. We believe that the body heals itself, providing you remove the blockages that exist between the brain, the spine, and all body parts. So when we remove what we call a subluxation, which is nerve interference, layman's term, pinched nerve, the body will just start to heal itself and work better.
Okay. So that, listening to kind of explain that almost reminds me of, sometimes I think of those IVs hanging out and then you have a little tube, right? And as long as the tube is clear and it kind of has this gravity does its own thing, but the moment I would pinch that tube, the medicine stops going to the patient. It sounds like potentially that some of these sort of movements within our skeletal structure, the spine, and so on, are potentially pinching that. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, but it could also go the other way. Sometimes the nerve transmission can speed up. So, point is, it could either slow down or speed up. I'll give you a good example. If you have a muscle spasm, that's a nerve consistently firing on the muscle. And it's actually speeding up the transmission, causing a spasm. When it slows down, you get weakness or atrophy. Now, the same thing happens with our organs and glands, but we don't feel it. So people often say, well, I feel good. Why should I go to a chiropractor? And the answer is to prevent terminal degenerative things that can occur. And also, your people assume that they can feel everything. And subluxation is actually a silent killer, sort of like heart disease. Well, nobody can feel their blood vessels blocking up until something serious happens. Nobody can feel joint decay or tooth decay for that matter until it gets severe. Do you ever go to the dentist and they say, oh, you have cavities? And you go, really? I didn't know that. Well, it's a good thing to fix them because if you don't fix them, you're going to wind up with a root canal or actually a tooth extraction. So the same thing applies to your spine, but the spine can't be replaced like a tooth. So it's much more serious.
Oh, absolutely. And I also really like the idea that you're focusing a lot on preventative measures, right? Like go in and do stuff now when it's not painful, when you can move, when things are, relatively speaking, easy to fix, as opposed to waiting when it's so late that
Great
the
point.
only option is surgery or there's really no option whatsoever. You are going to be in pain until the day you die, and that day might come, quicker than you may want.
Absolutely. I think you're very clear about the way it works.
I love it. I love it. So, how did you get started? How did you decide you wanted to be a doctor and that of chiropractic medicine and sort of that holistic care of a human being?
Well, to answer that question, Ev, I'm going to have to tell you some little dirty secrets about my life. And I'm going to go back to when I was born. I was born into a mother that was 45 years old. And back in those days, women didn't give birth at that age. And she was also told by her doctor that she could never have children again. So she was 7 months pregnant with me before she actually found out she was pregnant. She thought she just gained weight and had gas pains and stuff when she felt me kicking inside of her. And when I was born into a very dysfunctional family. There was a lot of mental illness in my family. And, I was always joked about how I was the accident child and I had some emotional issues myself. When I was about 17, 18 years old, unfortunately, I discovered drugs and I spent several years taking drugs, pretty much killing myself. I was a very sick young man. I always had something. You name it, I had it. And so I was at death's door. I had to make a decision. What am I going to do? So through a friend, I heard about this karate slash yoga master who was moving back to New York and he was starting an ashram, which is a yogic school. Well, I knew that I was going to die if I didn't do something. So I joined his ashram. And when I was there, he trained me in so many different areas. I learned karate, I learned yoga, I learned meditation, psychology, philosophy. We did religious studies, we did self analysis. And fortunately, there was a chiropractor in my class as well. So he invited me to be under his care. And that kind of was the springboard for me to start getting a lot healthier because he treated me with nutrition, which really helped because I had a terrible diet back in those days. All I ate was red meat. I didn't even know what a broccoli was. So I was under his care and I started to improve dramatically, consistently, plus with all the karate training and the yoga and the meditation and the Tai Chi. I was now getting the discipline to be holistic. And when I got my black belt, which believe me, was torture, I was in such poor shape. I worked my butt off. I cried a lot. I thought God gave me a bad body and there was no way I can do these kind of things. I had to really transform who I was, how I thought, my emotional states. And then finally, after 5 years of intense effort and a lot of working out, I got my black belt. Now I said, hey, I just accomplished something I never thought I can do. What else can I do that I don't believe I can do? Well, I was a poor student, I must admit, when I was back in high school. I barely made it through school. But now I had discipline. So I decided that I wanted to be a chiropractor. And everybody laughed at me. Student, you couldn't do that. And inside, that lit my fire to prove them wrong. I said, I'll show you. So I went to school and I did great. Now I had the discipline. I wasn't a great student, I admit, but I did well enough. And the rest is history. Now I'm a chiropractor for 36 years. I wrote a book. I teach hundreds to thousands of students meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, breathing, posture, which is actually my next online creation. So that's kind of my story. And I help other people transform their mind, body, and spirit because I've done it. I've come from the lowest level to a very good place in my life at this point. And I have the ability to save people 10 to 15 years of practice because I've distilled out the essence and the inner structure of these arts. And honest to God, I can teach people what took me 10 to 15 years to learn in minutes. So I'm so grateful for that. I feel so much joy when I see people transforming right before my very eyes.
I love that story, and I really appreciate you kind of taking us all the way back because I think for some of the viewers and listeners, they may think that people become successful because they were always successful. And what I have found is that quite the opposite seems to be the truth. It's
Yeah.
typically individuals who have a rough childhood, a rough teenage years, who have hit bottom and have realized, I got to do something to change. And that does not necessarily mean you got to wait till hit the bottom to actually do something. You can
Yeah,
do
that's for
something
sure.
today. So don't go all the way up until it's too late and then try to climb up just for a good story. But, I really appreciate you sharing that because I think that's going to also motivate some of the individuals to say, I too am passionate about helping people, healing people. And so you very much are inspiration to me, and I'm sure that you're inspiration to many other people who are looking up and saying, I really would like to do that kind of stuff. So thank you
Well,
for sharing that.
I wrote this book called Well Adjusted.
I was just going to ask you because you mentioned a book, and I was going to say, hey, what's the name of the book? Can you tell us about it?
Well, this is my book. It's Well Adjusted, a transformation of mind, body, and spirit. And basically, in the book, what I do is I tell people my story and I teach them the methods that I've used to attain the level of consciousness that I presently exist. So it's a great way to begin to learn. And my online course that I'm in the process of creating will take people in more depth into all the practices that I've actually used.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, some of the audience for the show may be individuals who are teens and young adults who are exploring different career choices. If they are looking to say, you know what, I really like what Dr. Michael does, and I would like to do that. What is one piece of advice you would give to the watchers if they're considering the career path that you're on?
Well, I think the most important thing, Nev, is to go within. You have to first go within yourself and find a space within you where all things come from, so that if you can't give to people what you don't have yourself. So I'm a big proponent of owning the knowledge and having the discipline to practice the things from your heart, because once you own it, you can give it. And so my whatever you do in life, it all starts from within you. So that's what I believe. And I think
I love that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that. Thank you very much for sharing that. I have found that, I have had many mentors in my life, and I presume you have as well. People that you have learned from. It sounds like even at your earlier age that some of those teachers have basically saved your life, if I can just sort of
Oh
conclude
yeah.
that in my own head. But I have found that I enjoy learning the most from the teachers who are doing what they teach. And today's age of internet and media, with so many people with smart devices where it's so quick and easy to record videos, just about everybody's popping up as an expert in something. And when you start digging deeper, or for individuals that have knowledge within the particular field, you listen to them and go, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. It sounds good, but it's clear to us that they're not doing what it is that they're teaching everybody else. And I love the fact that you're saying if you're going to do this, you got to own it first before you give it out.
Yes, you can't just have knowledge. You have to have being.
Mm.
The marriage of knowledge and being creates true understanding. And when you have that, it's easy to share your passion with others because it's coming from your heart. They recently discovered through this thing called heart math that
Yes.
the heart is like 600 times stronger than the brain. So it's not just about getting intellectual knowledge into your head. You have to integrate it into your heart and find the passion that exists within you, and then that radiates out into life.
Yes, I'm glad that you have mentioned that. There's actually a couple of apps for that, not to be funny, but there truly are some apps for that and some devices. And what they have found is that through proper breathing and meditation, which is what you just talked about not that long ago, they have found that the heart brain wave connection and heart rate variability really increases, which is what they have found that is incredibly good for overall health, recovery, longevity, and so on.
That's true. And the energy, it's all about life force energy and how to conserve it, build it, and then to transform negative into positive. That's what I teach people because basically we're energy beings living in a body. And so when you get to the core of what and who you are, that's the best thing you can do for yourself as well as others. We teach people how to transform their stress into vitality
Hmm.
because certainly stress can be an issue, but it's necessary. Stress isn't bad. Nothing's good or bad. Everything is the way you take it and what consciousness you bring to the situation of your life. So you go deeper. Good and bad is kind of like a ripple on the surface of the water. But deep down, even when there are tsunamis, if you go deep into the ocean, it's calm. And
Yes.
that's the same thing with humans. We're calm and peaceful and full of love deep within ourselves. Just on the surface, we have ripples that may be happy or sad, but you can go deeper where that stuff doesn't even matter. And that's who we truly are.
I
And
love that.
yeah.
I love that. So, who makes aside from I mean, I have already said everybody could benefit from you, but in your 30 some years of experience, 36 if my memory serves me well, who have you found to be the best client for you and your practice and what you do?
Well, I got to be honest and say everybody can benefit. We help corporate workers, people who are at a desk. We teach them better posture. I have a form of posture that I teach that I learned through Tai Chi and Qigong. I call it cosmic Chi posture because literally just through sitting correctly, I can teach people how to increase their energy level. And I demonstrate that through a muscle test where I show people when they sit the way they normally do in poor posture, they're weak. And then when I align them in the right posture, they're amazed that they get 10 times stronger. So just literally anybody who sits can benefit. I benefit children. I benefit the elderly because it slows down or halts the degeneration of their joints and their health in general. I help teachers. I help athletes. I mean, the truth be told, anybody who has a body and a spine can benefit.
Okay, well, that narrows it down to I think 8 billion people on the planet today. So I like that. I really do enjoy that. Now you have mentioned that the proper sitting, and I understand that sometimes through these videos you may not be able easy to explain, but I see a lot of I was going to say younger individuals, but I've seen also older kind of sitting like this and stuff. Is that kind of what you're talking about? As a bad posture where you're all slouched down, staring down at the screen, and
Well, your body and your posture reflect your emotions.
oh,
You know, so when you see people slouching like that, very often they're depressed or they're very introverted and they have a very poor self-image of themselves. When you see somebody sit up and, it emanates strength and power and confidence and competence. So on that level, the posture reflects a lot. Now, when people start to slouch like that, that is when they're starting to go through different phases of spinal degeneration, and
mm,
all of that can be prevented. That's the whole point, is to prevent issues from happening. And you know, you ever see people who have tech neck, they call it now, where their neck goes forward from looking down, texting, or looking down at a computer. It actually has become an incredible problem. I'm seeing it now in what I used to only see in older people, 40s, 50s, 60s, from car accidents or years of, degeneration. And I see it in 16, 17, 18-year-old children now who actually are developing arthritic neck conditions. So it's really becoming a major issue in our society.
Absolutely, yeah. So, do you have maybe a recent example of a success that you have achieved with a particular client or patient? I don't know. I don't know if you guys call them patients or clients, but
Patients. We are doctors. Um, well, yes. I mean, I can give you endless testimonials that I have, but one that sticks in my mind recently is this woman who, I thought she was 73. She came into my office. She could barely walk, and she received some acupuncture, chiropractic, and some laser treatments. And I told her in 3 weeks she'd be jumping on my table. And you know, about a month later, she was jumping on my table. And I said to her, "Isn't it amazing that somebody at 73 can be reversing the degenerative process and you're walking again and you have no pain?" And she goes, "Honey, I'm 83." So,
wow.
like, wow, there you go. That's even more important. And then she came back and told me, I just moved my from one house to another, and I was running up and down the steps all day long carrying things. And my husband absolutely could not believe it because before that, I couldn't even walk up the steps. So I think that's, and that's not untypical of the type of stories I hear in my office. We restore people's joints back to mobility and health where they couldn't even walk, and some of them are jogging again. So it's my passion. I love to see those transformations in people, and it happens weekly, daily.
That's amazing, and that also must, because that is something that you enjoy doing. I can see how your work is incredibly fulfilling for you because you get to show up from heart and from knowledge, help people, and really witness things that drive you and fulfill you.
Yes, and I save many people from surgery as well, which is very impressive.
Yeah.
A lot of people give up hope, and it's so much joy to my heart to help restore hope in their life and literally saving lives. You know,
And not just saving lives. I try to think of, coming to somebody like you and having things fixed without having to go undergo surgery. I am likely, and because of my financial background, I can speak with great level of certainty. I'm saving a lot of money because surgeries are everything but cheap. I'm saving a lot of time because right from the surgery, the recovery can vary a
correct.
whole lot, right? So you're down a lot. I'm saving myself a lot of pain because, right, like, I mean, I cutting the body and doing all of those different things like that all. So I am saving myself a lot of different negative things just by coming to you. And so, I always try to look at the long term benefits, right? And so I can look at it and say, okay, and I don't even know how much you charge, but I can say, hey, I'm going to pay a couple $100s to Dr. Michael to help me do this, or I can pay a couple $100,000 2, 3 years from now to have a surgery. Which one would I rather do? And I will always go with a couple hundred as opposed to a couple 100,000 because yours is going to be pain free, and I'm actually going to start feeling better sooner as opposed to wait, pay a lot, and then be in a lot of pain, and likely my body will never be the same.
Yes, and you're just focusing on the financial aspect right now and the time factor, but there's nothing better than investing in yourself. That's what
Mm.
people don't seem to understand. They look at it as a cost, but it's not a cost. It's an investment. And people need to shift their thinking and realize that they need to invest in themselves because they're the only person who can do it. And we must take responsibility for our health. And
I absolutely agree with you. I think I think my number one investment, a lot of people, because of what I do with money and financials, ask me, and they always think, oh, there's a particular stock or a bond or whatever that they can purchase. And when I tell them, when they say, well, what's your best investment? I said, well, I love this and I love this. And, I think most people know that I love and invest in real estate a lot. But that's not my number one investment. My number one investment is me. It's
Well,
investing
wise
in my
man.
health. It's investing in my knowledge, right? And so it's investing in my personal, physical, mental, emotional growth.
I'm on board 1000%. I love hearing that you know that and that you are saying that right now because health is wealth.
Absolutely. Because, I tell people it doesn't matter how much money you have today or how much money you think you're going to do is. And it breaks my heart when I see people killing themselves for a little bit of money. Then they do nothing with that money because they don't know what to do. And so they waste their health hoping to get wealthy. And whatever little bit they're able to scrunch up, which is not a whole lot, then they end up spending that plus all of their future money and their kids' money trying to regain health for a very short period of time.
Oh, it's a sad story. Somewhere along the line, people didn't understand the need to invest in themselves, and everything comes from within, not from without.
Yes.
And so that's the most crucial thing. You can't take the money with you. And I see so many of my friends, I'm 68 years old now, and I got to be honest with you, I have zero health problems. Now I look at my friends, heart problems, diabetes, some of them in wheelchairs, can't walk. I'm still out there throwing front kicks and side kicks. I'm teaching my classes and staying young and mobile and healthy. And I plan on doing that for the rest of my life, and I will enjoy very high quality because I understand the value.
Well, I'm glad that you have said that because I think in today's age, a lot of individuals get blindsided because medicine has progressed and it has allowed us to extend our life from where it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. But it's not just the amount of time you have, it's the quality of how you spend that time, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
And so, will you get to the average age of 87? Most likely, yes, because it is the average age, right? Vast majority of us will get there. The question becomes, how will you spend that time, right? Will you be
Correct.
out there playing and having fun and doing what it is that you love doing and being active and biking, hiking, playing with your kids, grandkids, great grandkids? Or are you going to spend time in a bed, doping on medication, and honestly hoping the doctors stop extending your life because you're in so much pain that you're better off no longer breathing?
Well said, my friend. I couldn't say it better myself. You nailed
So,
it. And people haven't been educated to think that way. Everybody just lives for the moment and the symptom.
mm,
If I don't have a symptom, I'm healthy. Well, maybe you have cancer. Maybe you have blood vessels that are blocking up and you can't feel them. This is so typical. How many people hear the story of, oh, my doctor gave my friend a clean bill of health, and then he dropped dead of a heart attack the next day? Everybody's heard that story.
yeah,
And now I've had people work for me who've had stage 3 and stage 4 cancer. And I go, how do you feel today? And they say, great, until they get chemo and then they don't feel so great. But the truth is, you can't go by how you feel. You got to use your intelligence to know that prevention is the best medicine.
absolutely. And I know that from a personal story. My mom, uh, 2 years ago now, has passed from cancer.
Sorry.
And by the time we have found out that she had it, it has metastasized throughout her whole body. I mean, by the time we found out, um, there was a couple of weeks left. That's it. That's all. That's all we found out. And I know when it came towards closer towards the end, I think for my mother, time I couldn't go any faster. I think she right? Because the pain is so
Sure.
excruciating.
Sure.
You know, as much as I miss her and as much in pains that she had to leave so early, I remember hoping and praying she would go even faster because last thing I wanted to do is just watch her suffer.
Yeah, I had the same experience with my dad, and you know, I had been telling him for so long, for so many years, not to eat a certain way, and his attitude was, if I enjoy it, it's good for me. But it wasn't, and people fool themselves. They let their desires rule them. And sometimes you got to like have the discipline to say, hey, I can't live like this. I'm going to probably die like this. They get trapped in their belief systems because they never learned the truth about healthcare, which is an investment and it takes time and effort. You have to be willing to do good things for yourself. You know, let's look at it like a bank account. It's very simple. If you make deposits into your bank account, you'll have money someday. But what if you just keep making withdrawals? You wind up broke. So the more deposits you make, the less chance you'll be broke. It's a very simple concept. And that's how I like to look at it. Keep it simple.
I like that. So, what is one piece of advice you would give people if there's one? And I know that there's probably a lot, and it's hard to generalize when we all so different, right? But if there was one thing that you have seen over the time, and one piece of advice that you can give to everybody, that something simple they can do on daily basis to improve their overall health vitality, what is that one thing you would say they should probably consider doing?
Well, I think everything starts with education. So I think that people should seek out ways to educate themselves physically, mentally, and emotionally on how they could be a better person. I mean, we teach simple things such as posture, breathing, smiling, even. Smiling is incredibly healthy, and sometimes smiling to yourself. Many years ago, I was studying with a Taoist master who I still presently am with. It's over 35 years. And I said to him, Master Chia, you always say how you have to love yourself. Well, how do you love yourself? I didn't know. So he said, smile to your organs, smile to your body, smile to your spine, smile to your brain, smile to your heart, and feel the love and radiate it to yourself. And I was like, wow, I could do that, because we're smiling right now at each other and I could feel it from here. So smiling energy is powerful. Eyes have powerful energy. And when you learn to direct that energy within to yourself, it's healing, it's transformational. And it's one of the practices we actually teach people.
Yeah,
So
one of the things
simple.
that I had learned quite some time ago at this point, from a dear friend that I hope to get on a show at some point in the future. But he talks about that there's been research that, right, like all these muscles are interconnected. And so when you smile, not only it radiates, but it also releases some of the muscle tensions that allow for some of that negative and toxic stuff that is within our body to start draining out of us through the liquids and so on. And I thought that was so brilliant and fantastic. And talk about like a simple thing, like
Yeah.
just smile.
We teach people three basic things: posture, breathing, and smiling. And those three things everybody does every day, but when you do it with consciousness and presence, and you're aware of the principles that we teach people, it's transformational. And so, why I love this work so much is because you don't need any time, specific times, you don't need any place, and you don't need any equipment. You are it. It's just an awareness that you have to integrate into your life to reap the benefits. And you just do it in your activities of daily living. And
I love it.
unbelievable.
I love it. So it's PBS, almost like a TV channel. Posture, breathing, smiling. Yes?
There you go. And what we say it does is it creates more peace, pain-free, and productive living.
Love
The
it.
three P's.
Love it. Very cool. So we are slowly but surely coming towards the end of the show. And I wanted to make sure I ask two questions that I ask every person that comes to the show. I am very big on knowledge and learning, and it sounds like you are too because you're recommending stuff. So I always like to know what is what books are you reading, or maybe there's a book that you're reading now, or maybe there's one book that has really left a long impact on you that you keep recommending. So what is that one book?
Well, I'm a very huge fan of Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The
Yes.
Power of Now. And right now I'm reading this book called Stillness Speaks.
Mm,
And it speaks to me very deeply. I feel it in my heart and soul. I also like his book called The New Earth. So
yes.
these books have been transformational for me in so many ways, and I've been reading them for probably 15 years now already. And I've integrated a lot of his concepts into what I teach people. And I just think it's phenomenal. And I also, my present master, Montauk Chia, who teaches something called the Universal Healing Tao. Um, his books have been very influential to me. I've been with him for 35 years now. And so these are the things I read regularly because, it's you don't need a lot of knowledge. You just need the right knowledge,
Yes.
and you got to find something that speaks to your soul because not everybody hears the truth in the same way. That's why there are different religions and different philosophies. So I recommend that people find something that speaks to them. And stillness speaks to me.
Stillness Speaks. I love that. Yes, I do enjoy stuff from Eckhart. I do not have that book, but now because of recommendation, I will make sure to get it and read it. So it's
Right.
going on my to read list. Thank you for that
Beautiful.
recommendation.
Beautiful.
And final question that I always ask for folks to share with us is how do people find you online? How do people connect with you? What is the best way for us to come in, ask questions, learn about what more of what you do and who you are?
Well, my email address is Michael Posner, DC, Doctor of Chiropractic, at AOL.com. Anybody can reach out to me on my email. And if anybody wants to see my chiropractic website, they can go to huntingtonchiropractor.com and learn a little bit more about me. But I am certainly open to anybody reaching out to me on my email. I would love to connect with the viewers and listeners.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Dr. Michael, it has been a true honor and pleasure to speak with you. I have learned a lot. And I'm urging the watchers and listeners of the show to go back and watch and learn again. A lot of the way that we learn is done through repetition. And if you watch this just one time, there's going to be a lot of things that you miss. So go back and listen to what Dr. Michael was saying of how you can improve your life today as well as in the future. Dr. Michael, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much, Dev. It was a true pleasure. Thank you.